Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Mushi-Shi, the movie, also known as Bugmaster, a Japanese fantasy film from 2006 that was directed by Katsuhiro Otomo and was based on the manga of the same name. Now, Otomo is most well known for his anime works, which include the highly acclaimed film Akira. Now, Otomo is one of those anime directors, so to speak, who decided to cross over into live-action film. Similar in some ways to Mamoto Oshii, who directed anime like Angel's Egg and Ghost in the Shell, but also dabbled in some very odd live-action films. We get kind of the same thing here with Otomo. So we're going to see how Otomo does with that transition. Now, there is an anime adaptation of Mushi-Shi, by the way, directed by Hiroshi Nagahama, and I've seen the anime years ago and remember it being very good. I need to add that to my collection. I think you could get a cheaper DVD version on Amazon at very reasonable prices. But the question today is this: is this live-action adaptation any good? Let's find out. So Mushi-Shi opens with Yoki and his mother walking along a mountain when a cliff suddenly collapses. This is followed by a nonlinear narrative that moves between past and present. So a series of flashbacks reveal that Yoki did survive the incident, and he comes under the care of Nui, who is a Mushi-Shi, or a Bugmaster, which means that she's an expert in Mushi, which are supernatural bug-like creatures that are invisible to most humans, but sometimes have negative effects on people. So our protagonist, Yoki, who renames himself Ginko, travels the lands and cures people who have been negatively affected by these supernatural bugs. Now, it sounds a little bit more complicated than it actually is. Mushi-Shi, though, is a very Japanese film in style and content. The mythology is very odd, maybe a little bit cryptic to Western viewers, but it's also quite fascinating if you can get into it. So, for example, the first set of villagers that we see that our protagonist encounters have a problem with a mushi that drain their hearing ability every winter, which causes equilibrium problems and other ailments for these villagers. And this particular supernatural bug eats sound. So the supernatural bug actually eats sound, and it's causing all of these problems. They almost look like little snails, which is similar to a certain part of inside your ear, which is kind of interesting parallel there. So our protagonist has to treat these villagers to expel the mushi and heal them. And that's one example. And there are multiple scenarios that arise in the film. Things get pretty weird, as you can tell, almost immediately. But that's the fun of watching a film like this. You're going to see stuff you're not going to see in just about any other film. I feel like I've been saying that a lot with the Japanese films I've been covering recently, but it's true. Watching a film like Mushi-Shi is quite refreshing. Refreshingly different, I would say. Now, to this film's credit, it does do a good job of developing some dramatic backstories behind some of these ailments and the characters that they impact. Its weirdness is almost conceptual, not in the way that it tells a story. So the film is very easy to follow, but the creativity lies in kind of these weird supernatural bugs and the certain things that they do. There is a slight horror slant to this. Not enough to classify it as a horror film, but there's a little bit of a creep factor to this film, and I like that. But, again, this is one of those films where I can understand if some viewers find it a little bit difficult to process, which is something that I mentioned when I reviewed the Onmyoji films. It's very kind of culturally specific to Japan, a lot of concepts here, and if you like more traditional films, you might not be able to get into this, so keep that in mind. The cast is good. Joe Odagiri is the lead. A few of his career highlights, in my opinion, are Azumi, Sway, Adrift in Tokyo, and The World of Kaneko. He can easily carry a film, and he does so here. Yu Aoi has a significant supporting role. The main plot of the second half of the film is related to her character, who is afflicted with a supernatural bug who is attached to writings, which is pretty interesting. And then we have Nao Omori, who is Ichi the Killer himself in the Miike film, is also in this. We get some recognizable faces. Now, like most Japanese films that are primarily set in the wilderness, natural environments are very nicely shot, very beautiful. The visuals are very pleasing. The film actually opens with some awesome forest imagery in the rain. Tons of forest imagery in this. So if you like films set in forests, here you go. And the film definitely has like this quietness and atmosphere to it. You know, that it's almost a little bit relaxing, I would say. Now, if I had one possible criticism of this, it might be the runtime. You know, it's over 2 full hours long. Also, the final half hour is not a climax. This film does not like crescendo to like a big finale against supernatural bugs or anything like that. You know what I mean? It kind of goes against, it subverts your expectations a little bit, because the final half hour, it's almost like just the continued journey of our protagonist. It doesn't crescendo like you would expect. But it is very satisfying, I think. And the pacing feels maybe a little bit off, I think. But other than that, I don't really have that many big criticisms of this. So overall, this live-action adaptation is definitely worth watching, I think. It's another example of a live-action adaptation excuse me, of a manga that I think works. The anime, I think, is probably still better because they have more time to kind of develop everything. But I do look forward to actually rewatching this live-action film in the future. I just recently added it to my collection. So Mushi-Shi, the movie, also known as Bugmaster, is available on physical media. I'm not sure about a streaming option right now. So if you have a chance, I would almost say, you could check the film out and definitely check out the anime series out, which is very good. And as always, we will see you next time.